Hi everybody, my name is Aaron Harting. I'm putting out this content for students in my past that have asked me to put out information related to posture. And I keep coming across people in my classes and talking to people. People are really in pain in their bodies a lot. And so I feel like these exercises that I'm going to show you, while simple and easy, will provide you with a way to kind of manage your posture, manage your body, and so you can do it at home. So we'll get started off firstly with some simple breathing exercises. Most of the breathing should be in through your nose and out through your nose. Expanding the chest and the side rib cage. It's also okay to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. It's a way to release tension a little bit more quickly, and it just kind of feels good. It's like a relaxation. So long as you're breathing deeply, it's probably the most important thing. Your muscles can't relax if your breathing is really tense. If your breathing is really tense, it's the fastest way to change your physiology, change your body, and kind of change the way that you're feeling. So breathing is absolutely important. The first thing we're going to work on today is our necks. It's a common area of aches and pains, and a lot of that has to do with posture and positioning of the body. We have a sedentary lifestyle these days. Lots of us work at desks. So when we're sitting and our chest is dropped and we're not aware of our breathing, we're not aware of our posture, the neck has a tendency to get tight. So what I want you to first notice is your breathing, and then we're going to slowly begin to move the neck. In circles, gently, slowly, keeping it very relaxed. It's important to move slowly because the muscles in the neck are quite small, and they don't tend to be very strong, so that they can become easily injured. And I just want you to notice the way your neck feels. Maybe it feels a little tighter on the right side or on the left side or in the back. But you're just going to notice tension in your neck while breathing deeply. Let the movement feel good. Okay, so just neck rotations to kind of check and see where you're feeling tension and tightness in your neck. Good. The next part of this is going to be about turning on your shoulders to help create neck release. Okay, so we have a tendency to get really tense and tight or draw the shoulders back and together, which actually isn't good posture. It's just going to tighten your neck. It's just going to make you more tense. So we don't want to do that anymore. We want to keep the shoulders down, and we're going to actually work on starting to bring our shoulder blades forward around our rib cage. I'll show you an easy way to do that. You're going to bend your right elbow, reach your elbow tip and shoulder blade forward. Pretty simple. And then you're just going to breathe. You're going to take maybe 5 or 10 deep breaths, and notice how the right side of your rib cage feels. Notice how your right side upper chest feels. Okay, another aspect of the exercise is you can turn your head slightly. You can tilt your head to make this right side of the neck a little bit longer. Okay, another thing you can do is twist your chest. All taking deep breaths, expanding into the right side rib cage and right side upper chest. Good. So I take my arm down, and then you roll your head and your neck again to check, and notice if you feel the difference between the right and the left side of your neck. Okay, if you're doing this at home or while you're watching, you may notice that the right side of your neck feels a little longer. It's a little more relaxed. Your right shoulder might feel like it's lower than your left. Okay, I'll do it on the second side. Reach your elbow tip forward. Keep your elbow squeezing in. So see, my elbow is in line, straight line with my shoulder. I can take my right ear to my right shoulder, lengthening the left side of the neck. I can also twist my chest to the right. Taking deep breaths again, expanding the left side upper chest and left side rib cage. Long deep breaths. Good. Come back to center. Roll your head and your neck around. This is a kind of a barometer for checking, did the exercise work? Things you should look for in this particular exercise are the feelings that your shoulders are contracting. The muscles in your shoulders, your deltoids specifically, are contracting and turning on. This contraction will allow tight muscles in the neck to release. Okay? So I'm going to show you one more for the neck, and I tell people they can do this when they travel, in their office. So long as you don't mind looking a little bit silly, you can release your neck anywhere you go, and it doesn't require much. So we're going to start in this same position that we were just in, reaching the elbow tip and shoulder blade forward around your ribs. I'll turn my head to the side, and I'm going to use my left hand for this. So right under my ear, there's a muscle called the sternocleidomastoid. We're going to find this muscle right under the ear. It's typically tight for most people. I'm going to press, just put flat pressure straight down on my neck as I lift my elbow. Notice my elbow is in line with my shoulder, and my shoulder blade is reaching forward. My shoulder blade and elbow tip reach forward. Take deep breaths. Release the left hand, bring the head back to center, and drop the arm. Okay, you check it again by rolling your head and your neck around. Okay, noticing the difference between the left and the right side. Taking deep breaths while you check, taking deep breaths in between poses. Always feeling that your breath is deep. Second side, the elbow tip reaches forward. The right ear goes towards the right shoulder, lengthening the left side of the neck. My right fingertips, I like to use 3 fingertips. Right underneath the earlobe. Put flat pressure straight down on those muscles. Deep breaths. Good. Roll your head and your neck to find if the tension has released along both sides of the neck. It should feel more even after practicing both sides. I want to invite you to, when you get this content, I want you to be able to switch between sections. So if you're having trouble with your neck, you can view this section. If you're having trouble with your hips or your shoulders, you can view those sections individually. They don't need to be done in any particular order. If you're having trouble or you're having aches or pains in a particular spot, try and go straight to that section and spend time where you need it. So that's the next section, and I'll see you in the shoulder section up next. Welcome to the shoulder section of our content. And so the purpose of the shoulder section is to help improve posture in the thoracic, the middle back, and the cervical spine, or the neck. The way we're going to do this is we're going to do some exercises that help draw the shoulder blades down and forward around the rib cage. This also has the added effect of kind of slightly tilting the rib cage up, allowing us to be in more of a upright position. So it's kind of the opposite of what we do sitting at a desk, or when we're not aware of our posture, the chest drops and we start to round over and almost look like the letter C instead of sitting up straight. So all of these exercises with the shoulders help to increase strength and mobility in the shoulder joint and improve posture in the thoracic and cervical spine. So our first exercise you'll need a yoga block. You can get these pretty much anywhere. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Okay, you're going to, all right, if you're a male, probably squeeze the block between your shoulders, or sorry, your upper inner triceps like so. If you're female and you're not very broad-shouldered, I want you to squeeze the block between your elbows. Okay, I'm going to show and demonstrate the block in the wider position. It can be done both ways, but depending on how broad your shoulders are, ladies, you may want to work with this one to begin with. All right, so again, the block's between the upper inner triceps. The hands will go completely flat on the floor. A common, something commonly done incorrectly is when the hands will come off the ground. So ensure that they're all the way flat and that the elbows will bend 90 degrees. Okay, the shoulders are vertically over the elbows. Okay, you can then move up and down. Keep the shoulders at a 90 degree, or the elbow at a 90 degree angle. Perpendicular line through your upper arm, your humerus bone. Okay, so this becomes quickly pretty easy. If it's easy for you, it's super easy. If it's not so easy, stick with this version. If that's not challenging enough for you, and you find that very easy, you have to hold the block. You have to keep your elbows 90 degrees. If that's very easy, you can step up onto your feet and even do the same exercise. This exercise causes your upper arms to be in external rotation, which helps the shoulder blades move forward around the rib cage. It also isolates a section of your upper inner tricep, the long head tricep. As that strengthens, as you lower your elbows, it's strengthening it in a lengthened position. It's a great way to get a hold of your entire tricep, which will help to stabilize and open the shoulder joint. Okay, so I just call this exercise with the block, or block between the elbows. Again, ladies, this is kind of similar thing, only the block is in a more narrow position. Okay. So our next exercise I call downward puppy dog. It's an easy way to call it. What you're going to do, it's a similar idea of squeezing the block, only you don't have to have your elbows quite so bent. And let me just show you. Your hands will be a little wider than your shoulders width apart. If you're using a yoga mat or some other type of mat, have your little fingertips off the edges of the mat. So your arms are quite wide. You're going to bend your elbows and squeeze them in. Notice my elbows are in line with my shoulders, not out to the sides. This is probably the most common thing. If I was with you right now, wherever you are, I bet your elbows are doing this. So bend them, squeeze them in. It's not as bent as the previous exercise, and the elbows aren't quite as close together, but this awareness of squeezing the elbow in, of externally rotating the upper arm bone, has to be remembered. You have to start to make your body remember this in order to really improve the posture of your upper back and of your neck. Okay, so this is the exercise. It gets more difficult by moving the knees further back, the elbows staying in, the hands staying flat on the floor. Again, a commonly incorrectly done is when the hands are not flat. So keep your hands flat, squeeze your elbows in, lift your collarbones and chest. Okay. You can continue to lower yourself down, and it just gets more and more challenging the further you lower down. That's downward puppy dog. Okay, this helps bring the shoulder blades again down, away from the ears, away from the neck, forward around the rib cage, and it slightly lifts your upper chest and upper rib cage to help with it'll help with breathing, and it'll also help with posture. So try taking a few deep breaths. And just notice, do you feel like you can take a little bit of a deeper breath than you did before? Remember, you're constantly breathing throughout all these exercises, constantly checking your breath. It's fine to exhale out of your mouth. Ensure you're getting tons of oxygen into your body. Okay. The next exercise we're going to do is a rotator cuff exercise. Now, I'm going to move on to my side, hopefully not disturbing any camera angle in the process. I'm going to lay down on my block, just like so. I'm going to draw my elbow into my body. I'm going to curl my shoulder blade towards the floor. My elbow tip will stay in contact with my body. I'm going to lift and lower my hand and wrist away from the floor. This is for the rotator cuff muscles. Infraspinatus, supraspinatus, and teres minor. Okay. Lifting and lowering. And after you do this a little while, it looks simple, but you'll start to feel a burn in this area, general area of your shoulder. You can do it till it burns. Again, if that's too easy, you can find a weight, maybe another block. You can use a water bottle. You could use a very small weight, maybe like 2 pounds. Lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower. This is an exercise I recommend every athlete that I've ever taught should do this all the time. It helps keep the shoulder healthy. You'll notice that this will affect your neck. If you just simply raise both arms or try any movement with both arms after doing only one side, you'll feel what the exercise has done and how it's sort of opened your shoulder and shoulder blade. A really good exercise to go back and try after this would be back to downward puppy on your knees and just feel the difference between sides. So I'll show you the second side. So I'm all the way down. My elbow tip is touching my right side rib cage. And then I'm going to roll my shoulder. So the front of my shoulder blade come towards the floor. Notice how it's curled in, okay? I'm not just straight up. My shoulder's not going up this way. It's curled in towards the floor. And I'm going to lift and lower my hand and wrist. Okay, I'm using the block for a little bit of extra weight. Taking deep breaths. Okay, once you feel it heat up, it'll get tired pretty fast. Again, you can let it relax. Take deep breaths. You can also check with another position. Maybe it's arms up. Maybe it's putting your hands flat on the floor. Again, squeezing elbows in, head and neck relaxed. Just beginning to notice how your body changes, how it feels different as you go through the process of these exercises. It's important to note how things are changing and what's happening to your body as you do this. Okay? You're going to start to learn your body more and more, and as you do these exercises, you'll get stronger, and we'll figure out a way to make it more difficult for you. You can reach out and contact me. I'm sure you'll have that information already, but we can figure out a way to work with you where you're at. So don't hesitate to contact me if that's the case. Okay, so that was for your rotator cuff muscles. The shoulders are opening up pretty nicely now. We've strengthened our deltoids. We've strengthened our serratus anterior. And we've strengthened and lengthened our rotator cuff muscles. Okay, so the shoulders are opening up quite nicely at this point. The next exercise we're going to do is to activate our subscapularis muscle. So it's the muscle that's on the front of the shoulder blade. So your shoulder blades are where they are, but it's like inside the armpit on the front of the shoulder blade. So I'll show you how to do it. It's a little strange. I'm going to turn sideways for this just to see, so you can see a little bit better. The first exercise we're going to do involves pushing the elbow back. I'm using my knee here. You could use a couch, you could use a table, you could use a chair, you could even just gently press back into the wall. But you see I'm pushing against my back of my arm right here. I'm pushing straight back. Notice my forearm is perpendicular, okay, to the direction that I'm pressing. I'm pressing back into my knee. All right, the next part, so start here. If this is good, if this is challenging, don't go any farther. If it still works for you, then you're going to drop your hand down and around your leg. But notice my hand is not wrapped around. Okay, this isn't sort of like a traditional yoga pose. This is to keep the shoulder and shoulder subscapularis muscle activated. I'm going to hold my arm in this position, and I'm starting to reach my hand up. So you'll feel some work in the muscles in your shoulder. It'll heat up again pretty quickly. Taking deep breaths. You could even pump the arm and shoulder back. And again, that'll warm you up. Take deep breaths. Good. Let that relax. You can kind of shake it out. Since we've been checking with the downward puppy position, you'll use that position to check all of the shoulder exercises. This is a good way to check them. Notice my elbows, I still haven't changed. My elbows are in line with my shoulders. My hands are flat. My neck is relaxed. My elbow tips and shoulder blades sink towards the floor. My upper back reaches up towards the ceiling. Okay, so I'm not bunched up. My elbows aren't out. They're in, down, upper back lifts. Okay, good. So second side. This is an exercise for the subscapularis muscle. Push back, lift your chest, take deep breaths. Drop your hand. Okay, you can kind of pulse the movement, pump the hand back. You could turn your chest away from the side that you're doing. Good. And you could check again. Downward puppy. Okay. Notice how your shoulders are feeling. Take a long, deep breath. Good. Try rolling your head and your neck around. This is another way to check if everything's being done correctly in precise alignment, then your neck will still be relaxed after doing the shoulder exercises. If for some reason your neck is tightened again, check all of the little alignment cues that I've been giving. The elbows in, the hands flat, the shoulder blades forward. Okay? I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like when your shoulder blades go forward around your rib cage. I'm going to turn around so you have a different perspective on what this looks like, because I'm sitting here facing you, and there's all different ways that we can do this, and maybe this will help you figure it out. So when we're really tense, the shoulders are tight and back, and people think they're sitting up straight in this position. People think, oh, I need to be sitting up straight, but really they're just tensing their shoulders, pulling them back, and drawing them up towards their neck. And these muscles all get extremely tight. What we're doing is bringing the shoulder blades down. And for example, when we do this exercise, notice how my upper back kind of moves towards you, towards the camera, and gets very broad. My shirt starts to smooth out. This is more of a position of a lifted chest. So notice my shoulder blades aren't back, they're forward, and then I'll actually lengthen my shoulders out to the sides. This is how we start to actually sit up straight without creating all of that tension and pain in the neck and the upper back. So a common misconception is you need to pull your shoulders back to sit up straight. That's just going to tighten your neck and make it not feel very good. So what we're going to start to do is bring the shoulders slightly forward, out to the sides, and you notice that my upper chest kind of popped. So it goes shoulders forward, out to the side, so like I'm trying to push out across my collarbones, and that lifts the collarbones and chest, starts to shift my head back over my hips and into a position of a naturally long spine. Okay, so that's our shoulder section. Join us for our next section, which will be hips. Our next section is going to be hips. Keeping the hips strong and flexible is really important for helping with any sort of lower back pain, lower back problems. So I'm going to show you a couple exercises that will help you kind of keep your hips open and strong. One of the main issues of lower back pain has to do with tightness in the hip flexor muscles. The hip flexors are the psoas and the iliacus muscle. We're going to work on increasing our upper quad strength so the upper quads begin to take over for the lower hip flexor, which tends to be weak in a lengthened position. So as we do that, we'll start to lengthen and elongate our hip flexors and strengthen them in the lengthened position to allow our lower backs to just have a little bit more freedom and ease. So the first exercise we're going to do, it's very simple. You're just going to extend one leg. With one leg extended, make sure your sit bones are on the floor. So if you rock side to side, you'll find your sit bones. I really like the word for sit bone. The sort of proper term for sit bone is ischial tuberosity. I feel like that's make sure your ischial tuberosities are on the floor. You're going to take your hands and place them behind your hips, lift your chest, lean back. Notice I'm creating this length through the front of my spine. It'll be important for the exercise. Keep both sit bones flat on the floor, lift your chest, lift your right leg. While maintaining this length through the front of your spine, you're going to notice that there's a really strong contraction in your upper quad. Don't worry, it's not a cramp. It's a really strong contraction. The more you lean back, the more that muscle will contract. And the reason that that is happening is because it's probably one of the weaker areas of your quadricep, especially in this particular position. We're lengthening the front of the lower spine, keeping the sit bones on the ground, kind of forces the upper quad to have to lift itself. Whereas sometimes we might do this. You'll notice my chest is dropping. This means my hip flexors are doing the lifting of the leg. In this very specific process, we're really causing the upper quad to have to do its own work. So you, again, lift the chest, keep the sit bones down, lift the foot, turn the toes in, drag the foot back. You can even turn your chest away from the lifted leg to make it a little more difficult. Good. Make sure you're breathing the entire time you do these exercises. So I'll show you the second side. Again, sit bones, ischial tuberosities, stay on the floor. Hands behind your hips, collarbones and chest lift. Reach your heel away from your hip. Take a deep breath. Exhale, lift the leg, push the heel away, turn the toes in. Try and take your leg back, lift your chest again, maybe even twist. Lift your chest and lean away from the lifted leg. Good. So again, you're going to likely feel a very strong contraction in your upper quad. That's exactly what we want to start to get to as we do this exercise. It will start to help your lower back release. Something you could do to check in between sides before you do your second side with that exercise would be to just keep your knees super bent, fold forward with your chest lifted, and notice if you feel a difference in your lower back. And probably to some extent in your hamstrings as well. Okay. Our next exercise is a simple forward bending position. So I'm going to stand up with my blocks in front of me. My feet are about hips width apart. My weight's towards my heels. Notice the outside edges of my feet are roughly parallel. So if you have a mat, the outside edges of your feet would be parallel to your yoga mat. Or if I got blocks, they're pretty much in straight lines. Okay? So I'm not turned in, I'm not too turned out. My feet are parallel. Notice I'm lifting my tippy toes away from the floor. And almost all of my weight's in my heels, so I'm starting to shift back. My belly and rib cage make contact with my upper thighs, and I lift my collarbones and chest. Okay, if you can tap your feet, I have my students do this a lot, just tap your feet on the floor. It ensures that your weight's back towards your heels. Okay, I'm going to show you just from the side view. Same idea, weights towards the heels. Notice as I shift my weight back, my bottom shifts back. If I lean forward, I'm going to fold forward. What we're starting to create here is length in the lower back, okay? We're starting to support a healthy lumbar curve in this position. So if you reach back behind you and you kind of feel, your lower back has a slight valley in the middle. That means your belly's long, your chest is lifted, your weight's in your heels, your belly and ribs are contacting your upper thighs. Okay, this position, while very simple, will have a profound effect on your hips and your lower back if done correctly. So as I said, it will help facilitate a healthy lumbar spine by doing that position. Okay, so there's a very simple way to make that more difficult, and I'll show you what it is. Continually refer to the previous position for those alignment cues. Everything needs to be done precisely. This isn't about doing it 1,000 times, it's about doing it a few times very precisely. Okay, the fastest way to make that more difficult is to do it on one foot. Okay, notice my weight's in my heel. I can bend the knee more if that feels, if it's too easy, you bend the knee more. But again, the weight's going to stay in the heel. This is the most, if you're going to do it incorrectly, you're probably going to be leaning forward. Okay, so keep your weight in your heel so you can tap your foot. The blocks are just for balance. Okay, my weight's in my heel, my collarbones and chest are lifted. Showing you from the side view, just so you can see my back is still straight, right? I'm not hunched over. My spine isn't rounded. My spine is roughly parallel to the floor in this position. Okay? And a good way to check this one, just kind of like with the shoulders, we used downward puppy to check all the other exercises. If you come back to this position in between sides, just do a simple forward bend. You'll be able to see what the exercises are doing between sides of the body. Okay, so that's strengthening the quads. Now we want to start to learn how to release or lengthen our hip flexors, our iliacus and our psoas muscles, to be in a more lengthened position. So how we're going to do that first is we're going to use something called reciprocal inhibition. It's like a $2,000 word that basically means we're going to turn off your hip flexor. So here it is. It's pretty simple. It's kind of going to be based on the last exercise that we just did, but slightly different. In my good forward bending position, my weight's still in my heels, my collarbones and chest lifted with belly and rib cage on upper thighs. Shifting my weight into my left foot, bend your right knee. And this time you're going to take it out to the side, forward, straighten the leg. Okay, so just keep the knee bent. If it's really easy, you can start to straighten. If it's really easy, twist your chest away from your lifted leg. Okay, step down, check your forward bend. It'll feel different between sides. And then what I'm going to have you do to check it again is I'm going to have you step your right leg back into a lunge. I'm going to do this in a side view so you can see how it looks a little bit better. I'm going to stay on the ball of my foot. I'm going to lift my chest, sink my hip, lift the chest. Okay, so this is the leg that I just lifted in that last exercise. And then what you're going to do is you're going to switch legs. So this is the side I haven't done yet. If you do it in this way, you'll feel that the side you haven't addressed yet is going to still feel really tight. The hip flexor on the left side, in this case, is still very tight. So we go back to the exercise. Weights in the heels, collarbones and chest lift. Stand on the right foot, bend the left knee. Left knee straight out to the left. Left knee reaches forward. Straighten the left leg, twist your chest to the right. Step down. Okay, so again, side view. This time, left hip down, collarbones and chest up. And after having done both sides, okay, this is actually our next exercise. So it's a pretty simple lunge. I like to have blocks on my hands. It lets me lift my chest a little more, sink the hip, contract the glutes, lift the chest. Okay, again, I'm going to show it on the side view. Sinking the hip, I want you to notice this part of my hip. In this position, you're going to activate your glutes. So you'll start to see it jump. You could do that 5 or 10 times. Contract, 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 let it go, contract, let it go. Then contract and hold the contraction. Make it contract as hard as you can. This is going to help your hip flexor lengthen, or as we said, it uses reciprocal inhibition to lengthen the hip flexor. So here it is on the second side. So I'm calling this lunge with glute activation. So again, here on the glute, sinking the front of the hip, lifting the chest, contract the glute, contract it, hold the contraction, lifting the chest, good. So far these exercises have addressed upper quadricep strength and strengthening the hip flexor in a lengthened position. We used an exercise that caused the hip flexors to relax or shut off and lengthen. And then the lunge stretches them out and helps strengthen them in a more lengthened position. This is all essential to creating a healthy lumbar curve, healthy lower back. So we really want to keep that curve in the spine. We want to keep the spine naturally long. That's it for one more exercise for the hips. You're going to use your yoga block for this. This is to help kind of strengthen and stretch out the outer side of the hip and thigh, and just helps with general mobility and strength in the hip. You're going to start with your block at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, you're going to place it in front of you. Your right lower leg is going to go on the block, and you're going to lift your hands. Okay, so notice my knee is not on the block, my foot is not on the block, only the outside of my shin is on the block. I'm going to lift my hands off the floor. It gets more difficult as you fold forward. This will stretch out the outer hip and thigh, the piriformis, and other external rotators of the hip. Make sure you're breathing deeply. Again, that's a bit of a challenging position. If you have knee pain, make sure to check with your doctor before you do the exercise. If your doctor says that it's okay and you have knee pain, you can close the angle. So I'm just more on top of my block than I am on the side of the block, on the side of my shin. Okay? A good way to check is in your forward bend. Just notice the difference between sides. Okay, second side, switch your 45-degree angle. Left lower leg goes on the block. Hands up. More difficult if you keep your chest lifted, but fold forward at your waist. Notice I'm not dropping down. My chest is long and lifted as I fold forward here. Good. And checking your simple forward bend to see how the exercise changed the way your body feels. That's it for our hip section. See you in the lower back section. So our final section is going to be for the lower back. All of these sections kind of flow into one another. It's important that your neck is open and relaxed, so your upper back can be open and relaxed, so your lower back can be open and relaxed, and that we can have strength in the longest possible position in our spine. And so after we've done all those other exercises, we've strengthened and opened up our shoulders, we've strengthened and opened up our hips. Now we can work with strengthening the lower back itself a little bit more. So I'm going to show you 2 different positions you can use that will help the lower back, that lumbar curve stay strong, and to help your posture be better all the time. So all of these exercises, if they're done consistently, will help your posture whether you're doing the exercise or you're not. So here's a couple of poses for your lower back. The first one I'm going to have you do is lie all the way down on your belly. All the way onto the abdomen. The feet are going to touch. Ankles touch. Your hands can be by your sides. You're going to lift your feet and your upper back away, your shoulders and upper chest away from the floor. Your head can be down or up, whatever's more comfortable for you. And you'll take 5 deep breaths in this position and do it 3 to 5 times. Another variation of this exercise is with the arms extended, feet lifted. It's just harder to do. You'll notice my elbows are in, my shoulder blades are reaching down. Just like in the shoulder section, okay? A third option for this is to squeeze a block between your ankles. So I'm going to catch this block between my feet and ankles, and it'll be the same positions again with a block between the feet and ankles. Hands down. Squeeze the block. Hands forward, squeezing the block. This helps to strengthen and tone the spinal extensors in the lower back. It also helps to lengthen the hip flexors. Okay? So again, this is for the health of the lower spine, lower back. Our next exercise, I'll show you from a side view, is a bridge. It's a pretty simple exercise. Your feet will be flat on the floor, hands by your sides. Lift your hips. Okay, you'll feel your bottom turn on and engage, your glutes contract, and you can continue lifting. This, again, opens and lengthens the hip flexors. Deep breaths are important here. The chest can go towards the wall behind you. Try and lift the hips and send the knees towards the wall in front of you. Allow your glutes to fatigue and get tired. After you've been here for a moment, you may be able to lift just a little higher. Just coming all the way down. You can rest, and then there's a way to make it a little more challenging. And what we're going to do in order to make it a little harder, make sure you have zero pain before you go any farther. What you're going to do is you're going to lift, and then you're going to lift one foot. It doesn't have to be all the way up. It could just be one little lift. Lift the hip. Okay? So just like we did with the forward bend when we stood on one leg, same idea, but in your bridge. Lifting one foot, push the hip up. When you come back to both legs, you'll feel like you can push much more strongly. Send your thighs forward, send your chest back towards the wall behind you, lifting your hips up, thighs forward, chest towards the wall behind you. Slowly come down and finish a pose like that by taking your knees to one side. You could take several deep breaths on each side, switching. Knees bent, just take them all the way to the floor. And coming up sideways after doing those exercises to a seated or standing position. So that pretty much concludes the content of our little instructional here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I get really excited about helping people improve their posture, their breathing, their poses, if yoga is something you're interested in. If you're an athlete, I love helping you kind of break through that next level. It's really exciting for me to be able to do that with people I work with. I've worked with people with neurological conditions from monoplegia to MS. I've worked with classical musicians, rock climbers, pretty much everybody. So I've seen the benefit that a lot of these simple exercises have for people, and it's just essential to do them regularly, consistently. You're either going to be in pain because you're getting stronger, or you're going to be in pain because you're not doing anything, or, the pain of regret, you might say. So you're not going to avoid pain in this life, but you might be able to avoid suffering. So please give me your feedback, get in touch with us. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear about if you're having challenges. Again, please make sure you check with your doctor before trying any of these exercises. It's really, none of this is designed or made to diagnose or treat any problems. These are just things that I've found that help with different parts of the body, and it comes from mostly my own experience with them. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.